Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, July 26th. Skipped yesterday. Played D&D with my buddies after work. Great fun. Today, I did the late shift at work where I helped the training team with new hires. And so I got off work at like 6:30 instead of my normal 3:45. But it is movie day and I want to watch a movie. Now, the last few times that has happened on movie day, I watched those MGM fairy tale movies that were not very good because they were short. They're less than 90 minutes, and that's ideal when I have a shorter evening to watch a shorter movie. But I've watched all those. Thankfully, done with that. But so, sticking with just the shelf that I'm working on this year, there aren't really any other movies on there that fit that kind of short category. Okay, so I can watch them from somewhere else. And I'm like, well, there is another objective on the shelves. An older one before I was trying to clear that shelf, from like last year, was that I'd watched a couple movies. I'd watched Pete's Dragon when it was here. Then, I watched Ella Enchanted. And I kind of decided, you know what, let's only watch movies on those shelves. Until I've moved a movie that I watch on those shelves to a different shelf. Because as I watch movies that I have duplicates of or whatever, I take them off the shelf and I put them at the end here to eventually be like sold or whatever. And then as I watch movies that are not on the shelf because they're new, I add them in. So when I have duplicates getting rid of, things go this way. When I add new things, things go this way. So things move around on the shelves. So if I watch a movie near the edge of a shelf, it's likely to move on to the next. Now, I only have two shelves that I haven't gotten to, and it's these bottom two. And it just so happens, on this shelf here, the furthest right movie, the easiest one to, as I watch a new movie that'll push it that way, is Space Jam, with a running time of 88 minutes. That's less than an hour and a half. Perfect. So I'm gonna watch Space Jam. Man. This was either my first or second CD. So not talking about the movie, but the soundtrack for this movie was like my first or second CD. With the other one being Batman Forever. Because yeah, I see this and I just think like the great music that this movie had. But yeah, so I'm gonna watch and discuss Space Jam. And that wasn't quite what I remembered from the nostalgia of my youth. But all the same, I would give Space Jam a 6.2 out of 10. It's dated. It's dated. Like even just looking at the menu, just poorly put. Like the resolution of Michael Jordan is not the same as Bugs Bunny. Is not the same as the background. Just weird stuff, kind of slapped together haphazardly for no discernible reason. Just kind of weird. Yeah, the movie has the years have not been kind to it. It is from, what's it on here? 1996. Now, from the back of the box, his airness and his hairness, what a team. Michael Jordan slams, Bug Bunny jams, in a cavalcade of Looney Tunes and NBA stars hoop it up in the rim-rattling, out-of-this-world round ball romp. Space Jam. Yeah. So, it is a combination of live action and animation. And being Looney Tunes based, it's not quite the quality of animation that I typically expect through often watching Disney's animation. It is definitely not that level. And moreover, for the way so much. There are so few direct interactions of live action and animation. So much of it is just, okay, you go do your thing, and you dunk the thing, and we'll just add guys around you in post. We'll figure out where to put them. It feels like that time and again. Like the animated characters were just added in based on what the action was. Like it wasn't setups with the live action in order to interact with what would later be animation. It was just, you do your live action thing, and we'll add cartoon characters in front of and behind you. Isn't quite the same. There's lots of silly jokes and lots of cameos and like I see Michael Jordan and a lot of the NBA guys are in there. And admittedly, I don't know sports, but I didn't know sports as a kid and I loved it. So not knowing sports, one thing is, throughout the entire game, every single time a basket is made, you get 2 points. That just seems to be what it is. Every time, basket, 2 points. Basket, 2 points. Somehow at the end, they win by 1 point. Like the numbers just adjusted themselves and somehow there was an odd number in there. So that, as a kid, I never noticed, but as all, I'm like, where'd that come from? They never established that you could get an odd number of points. I've been sitting here the whole time thinking, why don't they just do 1 point at a time and cut the point totals in half? It would make things make more sense. If you can only ever get 2 points, why make it 2? There's confusion. Bill Murray shows up. Bill Murray's a character. Now, something I didn't notice as a child that I did notice on this watch through is the evil villain guy that Danny DeVito voices. When Bill Murray shows up at the end, he says, "I didn't know Dan Aykroyd was in this picture." I never got that joke as a kid. I get it now. A lot of the movie takes place in live action land, I'm sure, because it's a lot easier than animating. But also, like, a lot of the more fun comedy is stuff like the basketball players that lost their talent trying to figure out, what's going wrong and what they're going to do now. Like, that is a lot of the comedy gold within it. And that has nothing to do with any of the Looney Tunes. Now, one thing I will say about the movie, and it's the thing I have most memory of the movie, is the soundtrack. And the soundtrack holds up. Man, the music in this movie is, I believe the kids call it fire. But in case I have that wrong, is good. And I mean, a lot of that might be nostalgia, because again, it being one of my first 2 CDs, I listened to this over and over and over and over. And one of the ways to get me to like music is to have me hear it multiple times. So that may have played a part to it, but to this day, I still love the music in there. And it's a lot of it is style of music that I don't like a whole lot of outside of this and some of the other things, that I listen to. But because I guess I've listened to it so much, or how nostalgic it is, or what the music of the era was, I love it. The music holds up. The music is still great. But yeah, visually it's, You got some silly jokes. You got some Looney Tunes hijinks. Really, one of the things that I feel is almost lacking is it's lacking a lot of the Looney Tunes hijinks that I would almost associate with things. Like, so many of the classical tropes of Looney Tunes that just never show up in it. Missed opportunities to utilize some of the characters in their own ways. You do stuff up in space, but you never, and you have Marvin the Martian, but there's no earth-shattering kaboom. You don't have Bugs do any of his weird things to music. Looney Tunes. I mean, I guess, yeah, like I said, the music is great, so, you know, I can't too much rag on them for not getting the tunes, but they didn't have any of the classical music kind of, you know, other than the establishing shot we get of Bugs. Which even says, like, well, that is his classic thing. And then it never comes up. I don't know. There's just things that, as a kid, I didn't care. It was like, whatever. It was cool. But as an adult, I'm like, they could have done more. And really, a lot of it is also, like, just lacking time to either develop or get into things. Like, at the end, Jordan comes up off of his spaceship to go to his baseball game that he was late to. And he walks in off the spaceship, and everyone's like, whoa, that's impressive, and not like, oh my god, what's going... That's a spaceship. They're just like, that's cool. Like, that's not a very realistic reaction, because these are all the people that haven't been indoctrinated into the world of Looney Tunes really exist. They're just all of a sudden seeing a spaceship, and I think like an animated spaceship show up, and he walks out of it. So to anyone that hasn't been dealing with the Looney Tunes, that should be mind-blowing, but they're just like, neat. Awesome, he arrived. We were wondering where he was at. And I'm like, I feel like if you had a little more time in the movie, you would have delved into that situation a little more, because that's a big deal. But if they had a little more time in the movie, it probably wouldn't have been the one I watched today. So, is what it is. Still nostalgic. And I'm sure, you know, assuming kids still grow up with Looney Tunes, I'm sure it would still be fun for them all the same. But I am no longer the target audience for it. Oh well. It is quite late, because it was somewhat late when I started. So I'm going to call it a night. Thank you for joining me, and join me as my journey continues.